I still remember the day everything in my life changed. It was a quiet Sunday evening, and I sat alone on the balcony, watching the orange sun slowly sink behind the houses in the distance. I was 8 months pregnant, tired, emotional, and swollen all over. My husband, David, had not returned home yet, and my sister, Kimi, who had been staying with us for almost 2 months, was nowhere to be seen. At that moment, I did not know that my marriage, my trust, and the last bit of peace inside me were about to break into pieces. I just sat there, rubbing my belly gently and humming a slow song to my unborn baby, trying to comfort myself. I had no idea that my baby would feel the pain I was about to go through. My name is Mary, and this is the story of how I discovered that the 2 people I trusted the most betrayed me in the worst possible way. I met David 6 years ago at a small bookshop my cousin owned. He walked in looking for a gift for his mother, and I helped him pick something nice. He laughed at almost everything I said, and I thought he was just being friendly. I didn't know he was already planning to ask me out. A week later, he came back to the shop, pretending he needed another gift. That was when he finally asked me for my number. Things moved fast between us. He was gentle, soft-spoken, and the kind of man who remembered every little detail. On our second date, he brought me the exact brand of chocolate I once said I liked. He opened doors for me, cooked for me when I was tired, and always checked on me. Everyone in my family loved him, especially my younger sister, Kimi. She was 24 at the time, full of energy, always smiling, and loved being around people. She used to call David her in-law crush, but we all laughed about it. It sounded harmless then. I never thought anything more of it. When David proposed, Kimi was the loudest person in the whole room. She screamed, jumped around, hugged me and David, and said she couldn't wait to be the cool auntie to our future kids. I never imagined that one day I would look at her and feel nothing but pain. Our marriage was beautiful in the beginning. We worked together, prayed together, and dreamed together. When we found out I was pregnant, David lifted me off the ground and spun me around, even though I shouted at him not to drop me. He cried that night. He said he couldn't wait to be a father. I believed everything was perfect. I truly did. But life has a way of shocking you when you least expect it. My sister Kimi lost her job in another city. She called me one night, crying and saying she had nowhere to go until she got another offer. I didn't even think twice before asking her to come and stay with us for a few weeks. David agreed immediately. He said family should be there for each other. I was 5 months pregnant when she moved in. At first, everything was normal. She helped me clean sometimes and cooked dinner whenever my morning sickness got too bad. She joked with David like always, but I noticed something new. She started spending more time with him. Sometimes, I would come out of the bedroom and find the 2 of them laughing at something on his phone. Other times, she would wear shorts around the house that were shorter than anything she normally wore. David didn't say anything, and I didn't want to sound insecure, so I kept quiet. I kept quiet even when my instincts screamed at me. I kept quiet even when I walked into the kitchen one afternoon and found them standing too close to each other. I kept quiet even when I noticed David's eyes linger on her more than usual. I kept quiet, and I wish I hadn't. By the 7th month of my pregnancy, things changed completely. David stopped paying attention to me. He stayed out late many nights, always claiming he had work to finish. When he came home, he barely touched me or asked how I was feeling. Kimi also started avoiding me. She spent more time in her room and smiled too quickly whenever I asked her simple questions. There were days she didn't even come home until very late, and she always claimed she was job hunting. I told myself that I was just overthinking things because I was pregnant and emotional. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom. I noticed that David wasn't in bed. I assumed he was in the living room, maybe watching a movie because he couldn't sleep. I walked out of the bedroom slowly, one hand on my belly, the other holding the wall for support. The living room was dark. The kitchen was dark. I turned toward the hallway, and my heart skipped. There was light coming from under Kimi's door. I didn't want to think anything bad. I told myself David probably went to check if she was okay. But something inside me pushed me to move closer. My heart was beating so loudly I felt like the entire house could hear it. When I reached her door, I heard something I can never forget. I heard my husband's voice. Not just his voice. His laughing voice. His happy voice. The voice he used to reserve only for me. Then I heard my sister's voice, low and soft, saying something I couldn't fully catch. Then silence. Then a small giggle. My whole body shook. I didn't need anyone to explain what was going on. I didn't need to open the door. I didn't need more proof. I turned around and walked back to the bedroom with tears streaming down my face. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep the next night either. I tried to act normal, but inside me something broke in a way I couldn't repair. The next few weeks were dark for me. I spent hours crying when no one was looking. I started losing weight even though I was supposed to be eating more for the baby. I couldn't tell anyone what I suspected because I didn't want to believe it. I still wanted my marriage. I still wanted my sister. I still wanted my family together. Then the truth came out in a way I never expected. It was a Thursday morning. I was doing laundry when my phone fell from the bed. As I picked it up, something told me to check David's phone that was charging beside it. I never touched his phone before. We trusted each other. We had no reason to hide anything. But that morning, my hands moved before my brain could stop them. I picked up his phone and pressed the unlock button. To my surprise, it opened. I didn't even know I knew his password. The first thing I saw was a message. It was from Kimi. My heart nearly stopped. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. The air left my lungs. I scrolled up, and the more I read, the sicker I felt. The messages went back weeks. Long, dirty messages. Long confessions. Photos. Plans to meet. Plans they already carried out. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the phone on the floor and screamed so loudly that the neighbors must have heard me. My world collapsed in seconds. David ran into the room when he heard the scream. Kimi ran in too. When they saw the phone in front of me, their faces both changed. David's went pale. Kimi's eyes widened like she had seen a ghost. I didn't have strength to stand up. I just sat on the floor crying. I asked David one question. Why? He opened his mouth but could not speak. I asked again. David, why? He knelt down and tried to touch me, but I pulled away like his hand carried fire. He tried to explain, but his explanation made everything worse. He said it was a mistake. He said it only happened once. He said he was lonely because I was pregnant and always tired. I looked at him like he was someone I had never seen before. Pregnant women get tired. Pregnant women feel overwhelmed. But none of that gives a man the right to betray his wife. Then I turned to my sister. My own blood. My childhood companion. The girl I protected all my life. Kimi, how could you? She started crying. She said she didn't plan it. She said it just happened. She said David was the one who kissed her first. She said she felt unwanted and confused. Her words stabbed me deeper than any knife. I felt my chest tighten. I felt dizzy. My belly squeezed in pain. I held the edge of the bed and screamed again. I was going into early labor. David panicked and rushed me to the hospital. Kimi followed behind in another car. The whole ride, I cried without stopping. The doctors said stress pushed me into labor early. Hours later, I gave birth to a baby boy. He was healthy, thank God, but I was broken. I refused to let David hold the baby. I refused to let Kimi even enter the room. I told the nurse to keep them out. That night, as I held my baby close, I made a decision. I was leaving. Not only David. Not only Kimi. I was leaving everything behind. When I returned home the next day, I packed my things with slow but steady hands. My mother came immediately when I called her, and when she heard the truth, she cried with me. She carried my baby while I packed. David kept knocking on the door, begging me to open up. Kimi sat in the living room crying loudly. I ignored them both. Before I left, David stood in front of the door with tears all over his face. He begged, he apologized, he swore it would never happen again. He said he didn't want to lose me, but he already lost me. I told him I would never raise my son in a home built on lies. I told him I would never trust him again. I told him that forgiveness was possible, but going back was not. As for Kimi, I didn't even speak to her. I just walked past her like she was a stranger. She tried to touch my arm, but I pulled away. I left the house and didn't look back. My mother took me in, opening her home and her heart when mine felt shattered beyond repair. For months, I lived in a haze of tears, prayers, and quiet reflection. The nights were the hardest. I would cradle my baby close, feeling the steady rhythm of his tiny heart against mine, and wonder why life had chosen such a cruel way to teach me a lesson I hadn't asked for. Some nights, I blamed myself, whispering into the darkness that maybe I hadn't been enough, maybe I had missed something obvious. Other nights, a storm of anger consumed me, a wildfire aimed at David and Kimi, a rage so fierce it scared even me. I would pace the room, rocking my son, screaming silently into my pillow, wishing the world would simply let me be. But slowly, as the weeks turned into months, something began to shift. The raw, jagged edges of my heartbreak softened. I began to see the truth in my own strength, the resilience I hadn't realized I carried. I started to smile again, not the tentative, fragile kind, but a genuine one that came from the deep knowledge that I had survived, that I had protected myself and my child when it mattered most. I learned to laugh with him, to celebrate the small joys, to savor the warmth of the sunlight on my face, and the quiet moments of peace that had once seemed impossible. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, each decision a testament to my own courage. I learned to trust, not blindly in others, but in myself. I learned that my worth did not depend on the love or betrayal of those around me. It was something I had to claim, fight for, and protect. David tried to return, sending messages, flowers, even letters filled with promises and apologies, desperate to undo the damage he had caused. Kimi also reached out, tears flowing through texts and calls, begging for forgiveness, asking for a place in my life again. But I had learned the hardest lesson of all. Some doors, once closed, must remain closed. The wound they left behind would take years to heal, and perhaps some scars would never fade. But that was no longer my prison, it was my reminder of survival. I learned something more profound than I had ever known. Betrayal does not break you. Staying in the wrong place does. Choosing to leave, to step away from the pain, is sometimes the only way to reclaim your life. Now, as I watch my son running across the room, his laughter filling every corner, I know I made the right choice. I may have lost a husband and a sister, but in their absence, I found something infinitely more precious, myself. Strong, whole, and unshakable. And that, I have realized, is worth everything.